This is Mrs. O'Neill for Chapter 10, Section 2, Part 5, those mixed mole problems. And I really like this little image here because it tells us that for every one mole, right, everything is related to one mole of helium atoms, we have Avogadro's number of atoms, we have 4 grams, that would be the mass on the periodic table, or we have 22.4 liters in volume because it's a gas in its normal gas state. So I really like this because this kind of represents that mole island I was talking to you about, right? So for every one mole, we could be dealing with its particles, with its mass in grams, or with its volume in liters. So before you get rocking and rolling here, here's some reminders. First, you need that mole island from your packet. That's going to be helpful to see those conversions. Your real periodic table, just in case you need the masses. Your periodic table chart of ions, just because I give you the names of the substances. You have to give me the formulas, especially if you're dealing with the mass, and of course a calculator. And moving on, let's think about this. If the word mole is in the problem, it's going to be a one-step problem because everything is related to mole. So you're either at Mole Island and you're going to one of those other 3, or you're at one of those other 3 islands and you have to go to mole. So that's a good way of saying, is this going to be a one-step or a 2-step problem? It really depends if the word mole is in the problem. So if the mole is not in the problem, it's going to be a 2-step problem. And I'm going to show you or remind you, showing you Mole Island again in a moment here. And this might be something you want to write down next to that Mole Island. Mole equals 1 step, not mole equals 2-step problem. So again, here's our mole island if you want to take a picture of it if you haven't done so already. But again, we have one mole in the middle, and in order to go to any one of those islands, right, we have to go to moles first. So let's say we want to go from liters to particles. And let me remind you, particles could be atoms, ions, molecules, or formula units, right? Because we're either dealing with elements, we're dealing with something that is charged, we're dealing with a covalent compound, or we're dealing with an ionic compound. All right, so my thought is this. If the word volume or the word grams is in there, I'm dealing with that. If that's not one of the units that's being used, liters or grams, then I know that I'm dealing with particles. So again, if we're going from liters to particles, you have to go to Mole Island before you can go to particles because those are the conversions that we know. All right, so what to do? Again, you're going to pause the video. Now, doing the problems, you might want to continue doing that question mark for what you want as an answer and the star for your starting point. And remember, that starting point is going to be that number with the unit right after it. So I know where I'm starting. And yes, I usually put that over 1, right? We put our starting point, our number, and our unit over 1, and then times either 1 conversion or 2 conversion factors. So again, I'm going to show you the question mark and the star for every problem. Make sure to show your work because this way, if you do have a wrong answer, you'll see where you went wrong. Did you go wrong with the mass? Did you go wrong with your conversion setup? Where did you go wrong? And I am going to give you every substance formula in the answer, but it's not necessary. But it will be necessary when you have to deal with mass. When you have to deal with mass or calculating the mass of a formula, you definitely will need that formula. So this is a good review anyways of going from names to formula. And I also round everything to 2 decimal places. So I round the masses from the periodic table to 2 decimal places to find that molar mass or formula mass of the substances. And I also round my answer to 2 decimal places. So again, if your answer is slightly off by a tenth or 2, it does. If you see your work, right? If you show the work and your work matches mine, that means you either kept the numbers in altogether or you didn't round the way I did. So again, that's not a big deal. So again, then you're going to play the video to check your work. Now, again, some of you are doing all of the problems all at one time, and that's fine. Or you can do 2 or 3 at a time and play the video and make sure you're on the right track. All right, so at this point you should have paused and you should have at least done 2 or 3 problems to check your answer. So again, I'm not going to say too much here, except for I gave you the question mark where what we want as an answer. Here's your star because that's the number and the unit right after it. So that's going to be my starting point, and I put it over 1. I highlighted the word mole to tell me, oh yeah, I only need a 1-step problem. And in this case, I did need the formula of barium cyanide to come up with its formula mass in order to use it as a conversion. So there you have it. Your answer number is required. Your unit answer is required. Now the substance again is not required in your answer, but again, I'm going to include it so you know what those substances are. And in this case, you needed it anyways to find the formula mass. All right, here we go. Number 2. Notice there's nothing to highlight as far as the word mole, so it's going to be a 2-step problem. We do need the formula for aluminum oxide because you need the formula mass at that second conversion step. And so here's your answer, your unit, and your substance. Here's your number 3. Again, pause, making sure that your work is also correct. Here's your number 4. And again, I highlighted the word moles to tell me it's a 1-step problem. Here's your number 5. Here's your number 6. And again, I strongly suggest that if you are not getting something right or still not understanding what you're doing wrong, make a notation of that so you can either talk to me in class or another student. Number 7. Hopefully that makes sense to you, and this is just an element, so it's just one of those NBs, and your final one of number 8. And again, iodide ions would be I-1. All right, guys, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you did well, and hope to see you in class.